And we are live. This is Travis Witherspoon from Carter Cow Capital, helping you fight for your financial freedom throughout the Forex market. This is a night session of Trade with Travis. Hope everybody's doing very well. I'm going to show myself on the screen one quick second. I just want to make sure that uh, I am getting the small little detail stuff that we got to be able to get put together. And then after that, we'll go ahead and get started. But I hope everybody's doing very well. I hope everybody end up having a good trading day. Today was a very light trading day for me. End up pulling over about 3 grand in one account and another 200 in a small count, a small challenge cap account. But today this felt very slow. Um, but sometimes that happens based off of overall movement. I hope everybody's doing very well. For the people that are first time watchers and everything else like that, this is Trade with Travis. It's 9 p.m. to 9:30 to 9:45 ish, depending on how the engagement ends up going. Session where we end up talking about trading opportunities. We end up talking about the trades that we're taking this morning, and how to be able to adjust to those. Also, being able to talk about any other particular pairs that you may be interested in that you are taking trades on. So you're interested in being able to learn a little bit more about that, or interested in being able to hop into one of our webinar classes or our Discord that we're about to launch, or anything else like that, please also let me know that. And also, please make sure that you end up shouting and saying hello. It's always cool to be able to say hey to everybody that's coming in on the uh, 9 p.m. sessions. Obviously, the 6:30 sessions is not the 8 o'clock session, so some people I typically miss doing those sessions, but always good to be able to see everybody. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. Get ready to post up the disclaimer, and then after that, we can go ahead and get rolling. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from the education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Now, understand that trading involves risks. It involves risks of being able to make money, also involves risks of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you can end up making money today. So with that being said, as we take a look at the charts and be able to go through everything, we always kind of do it in a systematic perspective. We end up, especially during the nighttime, we end up taking a look at what ended up happening during the previous day, what may end up happening for other news that may end up happening today. Like we got RBA meeting minutes that's going to happen with the Australian dollar. And then after that, we talk about what's going to end up happening in the day afterwards. Now, remember, we are in the third week of the month. Now, typically every month is somewhat of the same. First week, you got non-farm payroll that's going to end up being on Friday. You got a lot of high impact news that may end up happening. Tuesday is typically a breather of the high impact news, and it's typically a traders week, meaning that the chart is going to be way more important than what you see on the economic news. The third week is typically a interest rate decision and FOMC policy statements and anything else like that that may end up coming out. Now, like I've said before, like I will say all of the time, when Jerome Powell speaks, the market moves. Whatever he ends up saying is going to end up affecting the market and how it's actually moving. So, with that being said, it's very important to be able to understand what's happening with the market, what's happening based off of that overall information, and how to be able to keep yourself away from it. So, typically on the day before the high impact news that's going to end up happening, because this is going to happen at 2 p.m. Tomorrow, I expect that we will see one move that will probably end up being one big move, either at the beginning of the morning during the Forex time or right at the 9:30 session. After that big move happens, then the market will get flat and it will end up getting stale. Based off of that situation or based off of that movement, then that leads you to what's going to end up happening on Wednesday. And because it's going to be at 2 p.m., we're probably going to end up seeing another flat day of overall movement Wednesday morning. And then after that, it will slow down, die down right around 11 o'clock. And then at 2 o'clock, it will pick back up based off of that news and interest movement. So today is not one of those days, or tomorrow is not one of those days to be able to jump the gun and be able to try to get as much money as you possibly can or anything else like that, because you're probably not going to get a lot of great movements. But it's always worth noting that typically the Sunday to Monday trade is the biggest trade, and then after that you end up seeing a little bit of movement after that. Okay, so with that explanation, I hope everybody understands that. So let's take a look at the big three real quick. Let's see what's happening with the United States dollar index. We'll take a look at oil, in which we took a trade on oil. Had to get out of it a little bit earlier than what I wanted to. and then the market truly turned around. So we'll see how that kind of affects what's actually happening when we go from now. Uh, so on the weekly, what's happening is this. Market is still trying to push above this overall high of 13,289. Currently, the market is seeming like it's about to go inside of consolidation. It'll probably end up being inside of this area until the market truly breaks out. Until the market truly breaks out on Wednesday, based off of whatever news that Jerome Powell ends up saying. Unless there's something that may end up happening tomorrow that just unexpected. With that being said, there's a clear expectation that I think that the market's probably going to end up consolidating. Today was an indecision candlestick. The day before was an indecision candlestick, which means that more than likely there will be a decision candlestick looming, and it'll probably end up being more to the downside if that's going to end up happening because the bulls were not able to push this market up. So I do expect to probably see that this market may end up having a little bit of a drop down going into tomorrow, and then after that on Wednesday we'll see how the market kind of reacts based off of that movement. With that being said, because the market is in consolidation, in which I would call it consolidation now, or forward position, I would not look at being able to take trade on US dollar pairs until there's a true decision on what's going to happen with direction. Type in a Y, yes, if that makes sense for the people that are watching live. If you have any questions about that, about the United States dollar index, on what potentially you could potentially do based off of this movement from an index perspective by itself, probably won't do that much. But from a trading perspective, once it breaks above 13,289, then after that we got some action that we can be able to kind of play around with. But at this particular point, there's nothing to be able to do. U.S. oil. What ended up happening with U.S. oil was that ended up taking a sale on oil earlier this morning. Hey, what's going on, Adrian? Hope everything's going well with you. Hopefully your trading day was going. Hopefully your trading day was well too. U.S. oil, been talking about expecting that this market could fall all the way down to 77.11 for that overall movement. Currently, the market is inside of a channel, and it's looking like it may end up showing signs of being able to break out to the upside. Now, there's no true move until the market actually ends up breaking out and giving us that retest that we ended up talking about last week for the overall movement. So, with that being said, if we take a look at the daily, currently right now, what we end up seeing was this: market ended up pushing up to the upside, rejected the overall resistance. Then after that, it ended up breaking a counter trend line. When it broke that counter trend line and started to be able to move, I was like, okay, well, we got an opportunity to be able to sell it from there. But quite frankly, there's not one true move yet. And like I ended up saying earlier during the morning, I was like, beggars can't be choosers when it comes down to this position. We got what we wanted. The market consolidated. It broke a counter trend line break. We ended up getting into the trade right around 84. The market fell all the way down to as low as 82.09. Then after that, popped right back up. So in this case, as we're looking at it again, like we typically end up saying, when there's a breakout, typically there'll be a retest. The retest has happened right now at this particular point. The 2 hours in the sell zone at this particular point. Ooh, excuse me. Everything's going well. Market ended up breaking the counter trend line. Well, market is close to breaking the counter trend line from a 2-hour perspective after retesting. And oops, come here. We have an opportunity of being able to possibly look at being able to sell. More than likely, the 15 minutes not going to be in the sell zone. It's probably already done made this move. And you look at it, it's actually kind of building out a consolidation a little bit at this particular point in time. So kind of like what we do with the vortex strategy, I will look at this the same way. Here goes your resistance. There goes your support. Market has to break below 84, probably 84.70 to truly be able to look at being able to get back in on this pair. This gives us a better opportunity than what we end up getting in at earlier. We're still looking at being able to sell it down to 77.70 or 77.11. But now we can be able to bring our stop loss a little bit higher past this overall swing high. And then after that, kind of trade it from there to see what's happening based off of this movement. So stop loss will be about 86.70. Take entry will end up being right around this overall low, this candlestick, which is, we got 84.94. So let's say 84.90 will probably end up being that position if we're looking at being able to take a sell from there. So 84.90. And then take profit will end up being 77.11. Obviously, we're going to have good risk to reward, so I'm not necessarily worried about that. It's going back to what we ended up saying before. It's probably timing more than anything else on being able to take this trade. Now, haven't traded oil in a while, haven't traded gold in a while, based off of certain looks, but um, oil has a very good chance of being able to drop down to that 76 level. So 77.11 is probably the area where I would look at being able to say, this is where I believe that we should get out. Okay, so there goes your risk, there goes your reward. Look at being able to get in if the market breaks below 84.90. That means that it breaks below the consolidation. Or if the market ends up pushing back up to resistance, which will end up being at 85.75, and it looks like it's about to break down again, you may end up having a better chance of being able to take that move as well. So that goes your trade plan when it comes down to this movement. Stop loss at 86.72. Entry will end up being below 84.90, and then after that, take profit will end up being 77.11. As we end up going to take this move. Daily is in the sell zone, so that means we got time on our side with the top of the channel, which also means that we have a good chance of possibly being able to see this market move. The only thing that I do not like is that yesterday we got an indecision candlestick, and the day before that, on Friday, we got an indecision candlestick as well. That could mean that we possibly could see this market start to pop up. Because remember, consolidation or the stochastic RSI, the MACD, the RSI in general, don't do necessarily well in consolidation. So we got to play it by how the market's just basically moving and then kind of reacting based off of that. Okay, so there goes the plan. Not interested in taking a trade yet, but we might end up having it. Now, kind of reviewing what we ended up talking about with gold. And if you are live, type in a Y yes if you end up trading gold with us for the first time and God knows when. This is the first time we end up taking a gold trade since the first day of trade with Travis over the summertime. Um, we ended up talking about this trade on, I believe it was Thursday or Friday. Um, the thought process on this movement was that we had a large consolidation from 16, I believe 55 or 1685. There was a large resistance at 1801 that basically started to consolidate. The market ended up giving us a rising wedge. It broke to the downside. Then after that, market consolidated a little bit and then broke below 1685 from there. I said that I was going to end up being as patient as possible, and I wasn't going to be interested in being able to take a trade until the market broke below 1685 because that was the push point. So market broke below 1685, took us out on the first trade. Remember, we end up saying anytime you end up getting takeout, you always end up doing a re-enter. Market ended up breaking below again, and then after that, flushed all the way down. Had a little bit of movement within 1 hour, and then after that, the rest of the hour consolidated a little bit again, and then after that, basically put us in the profit at 16.55 from that point. So if you were patient a little bit, it took a few hours to be able to get there, but um, this was literally a trade that was planned out for almost 3 months, and we finally got our chance to be able to pounce on it, and we end up making profit off of it. So if you end up doing that, congratulations to you on that move. Sometimes fear payers make it kind of hard to be able to take trades, especially when the market's pretty much slow. But let's talk about what's happening right now. What could we look up to? We have a built up consolidation now because we end up having the market finally end up completing that vortex area. So currently right now, all we're doing is looking at the market to be able to build up this consolidation area right here. Once that consolidation is broken either to the upside or to the downside, then after that, we'll look at being able to take a trade from there. I would say more than anything, more than likely the market will probably end up breaking to the downside a little bit more. But once again, going back to what we said with the United States dollar index, not interested in being able to see, or not interested in trading until the market breaks out of that consolidation. So when the market breaks out of the consolidation of the United States dollar index, it will more than likely break the consolidation of gold at the same time. So it give you double opportunities to be able to take a trade within both of those. Okay, type in a Y or yes if that makes sense. Zay, what's going on? Hope everything's going well. How was your trading day today? You made profit, talk about it. You lost profit, talk about it. Either way, both of them had the same thing. Talk about it. Definitely would like to celebrate your wins. So if you end up having some, okay. Um, so I'm actually trying to get into trading. Well, this is a place to be able to be. We talk about it all the time. Um, so I'm glad that you're here. I really am. All right. So let's talk about the trades that were taken earlier today. We ended up talking about two game plans. The first one was on US 30. And then after that, we ended up talking about what happened with Nas based off of that movement. So I have pages of notes. Half of the time it's just being able to, and with all those notes, legitimately honing down onto about 3 or 4 things that you like and you feel comfortable with. And once you end up liking and feel comfortable with, just rep the heck out of them. Once you end up repping the heck out of them and it becomes second nature when it comes down to looking at charts and being able to use the replay function and everything else like that, it will start to make a lot more sense. But the one thing that I will say before you get started, don't sit up there and jump into a live account until you're truly ready. Meaning that track all of your progress on demos, see how well you're actually doing. If you feel like you're doing well, go for another 2 to 3 weeks and see if you stay consistent. And kind of going from there. How do you feel about buying and selling indicators? What do you mean by that? An indicator that ends up giving you like a buy sign once it ends up crossing over, or are you just talking about something like a stock, like a moving average where it crosses over? While you go through that and write that down, I'm going to go ahead and finish up on US 30. So last week, what happened? We took a trade earlier. We took a trade on that movement last Monday. Then after that, we end up pushing up to the upside. End up getting about 800 points based off of that movement. Remember, this trade right here alone ended up bringing in about 10K for some people. Hopefully, most people end up making at least 800 um, based off of that movement. You mean super trend? There's plenty of different indicators that end up giving you like buy and sell signals, but super trend is one of them. Typically, they do very well when the market is trending, but if the market is in consolidation, the worst thing that can be able to happen is still look at those indicators. Indicators do very well when the market is trending. As soon as the market starts consolidating, it gives you false signals. So you got to know when the market is trending. You have to know when the market is consolidating. When the market is consolidating, the buy and sell indicators don't mean squat. When the market is trending, they do very well. So you just got to know what type of market you're in. From there, market fell down, went into consolidation for a couple days, and then after that, fell down to the bottom again. We ended up having consolidation for another 3 days, and the plan was this. We ended up talking about this morning. We talked about this last night. Well, talked about it this morning at 6:30. When we looked at it in the morning time, the market was right here. My thought process was that I felt like the market was going to end up touching the actual support, and then after that, we're going to end up seeing a test based off of that movement. I also end up saying that if the market end up pushing up to the upside, then after that held at a resistance point right here, then we could be able to place in our sell trade. We could be able to place in our buy trade because it built out the consolidation at that particular point. So that's exactly what ended up happening. Market ended up pushing up to the upside. I actually ended up taking a trade right at 30,930. And my hope was to be able to ride that all the way down to the natural support. But typically in consolidation, sometimes this happens. The biggest thing that you have to be able to ask yourself is how many times did the market actually end up tapping? Well, we got one right there. We have a second time right there. We have a third time right there. We got a fourth time and fifth time right there. We got a sixth time right here. If it taps more than 3 times, then more than likely what will end up happening after we end up tapping at least a third time from a resistance and a third time from a support standpoint, the only trade that makes sense at that particular point is being able to get out directly in the middle. So that's exactly what I end up doing. Market end up pushing down. As soon as I end up seeing that it touched right off the VWAP, then I end up getting out of it because I seen that engulfing candlestick that started to happen. I knew what was actually happening from there. So took profit on it. It was a very small win, but I think it ended up bringing about 70 points for its overall movement to the downside. Once it ended up giving us that downside move, then after that, the trades, just like how we end up doing in any vortex strategy, is that we look at being able to look at what a support, the resistance is. We end up taking a buy trade to the upside. We end up taking a sell trade to the downside with the expectation that if it falls inside of any one of these low volume nodes that we end up going after, we have a good chance of being able to exploit that movement. And that's exactly what ended up happening. Market ended up pushing up to the upside right around 2 o'clock. When it pushed up right around 2 o'clock, it broke inside. Trade was triggered in at 30,930 with a take profit of 3,100. Market ended up hitting 3,100 within about an hour to an hour and a half. Got out of that trade very quickly and just called it a day for that movement. So the two trades that were basically taken was a sell trade from the resistance down to the midway point. We ended up getting about 70 points from there. When the market popped back up and showed that it was ready to go, we already had two pending orders that was directly at the resistance and directly at the support that was ready to go. The resistance ended up getting hit. Basically, what we ended up doing was trading this vortex space like we ended up doing when the market fell down before. So essentially, it ended up going from here to there. Now, could have got a little bit more out of it because the low volume node peak was at 31,150, but I didn't necessarily like that look. Which indicators best for gold on TradingView? So let me preface by saying this statement. I don't think that there's one indicator that works for one particular pair that just does it by itself. I will say, from my 6 years of overall experience, one, you have to be able to understand what markets that you're actually in. Are you in a trending market? Are you in a consolidated market? Or are you in an explosive trade area? The vortex strategy focuses in on the explosive trade area. So to me, my number one go-to indicator is this indicator right here, which is volume profile. Quite frankly, it has changed my overall trading career. It's allowed me to be able to have a lot more freedom, more than anything else. And as some people will attest to it, in some of the little mini sessions and everything goes, this is probably as accurate of an indicator that you can be able to find when it comes down to exploiting unfair market prices, and being able to go from there. So if I had to say that if there was one indicator that I would use more than anything else, it would be volume profile. I've always started off and finished off with stochastic RSIs. It's a mixture between the stochastic and the RSI. Obviously, the RSI is relative strength index. Stochastic basically reads overbought and oversold signals. So you kind of get a mixture of both. I like being able to use that, especially on the 2 hour and on the 15-minute, to be able to look at when the market is actually triggering in, and looking at it from a daily and weekly perspective to see what the current zone and the active trade zone is. But if you're interested in being able to learn a little bit more information, I actually end up having a free webinar in a boot camp that ends up talking about that. All you have to do is to send me a private message, and I'll get you set up with some information about that if you're interested. So took trades on those. Now let's talk about what's the game plan coming up for. Let's talk about a game plan that we could be able to do and could be able to look at being able to trade on going into tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to say this, I believe it's going to be very slow trading, which means that going into tonight, you probably might end up seeing the move actually be made. The market keeps on bumping up in this position. It's basically going to end up going back inside of this consolidation block that we end up having from 913 all the way to 916. So I will not personally look at taking a trade until the market ends up breaking above this overall resistance of this previous consolidation box right here. I will not look at taking a trade until the market basically breaks that position. The reason why I do that is because I don't want to fight with anybody. I don't believe in fighting with anybody when it comes down to being able to find trading opportunities. It's stupid at this particular point. I would rather sit up there and get what I can, and then after that, move on from there. So the trade that we still have left out there, and this is a pending order, so if anybody's still interested in being able to take it, here it is. 31,300 will end up being the buy area. Take profit on this one, end up being at 31. Let's see, go to the 15-minute. Let's see, do I even still like the way that we have this? Oh, there it is. Okay, 31,380. So getting in at 31. 31,300 to 31,380. It's only going out to 38 points on that movement, but that's going to end up being a safe and quick scalp move from there. Once the market ends up breaking above that high and breaking above basically 31,500, now you can be able to trade 31,500 all the way up to the actual resistance that was actually broken from that potential spot. So it'll be from 31,500 all the way up to 31,620. And then after that, I will look at being able to get back in at 31,780 and then try to ride that all the way out to 32,875, which was basically this large position that we end up having. Now, keep this in mind because we're going to end up having a high impact news that's going to happen on Wednesday. I would not be in a rush to take any one of those trades unless it's actually presented to me in a correct manner. There will be consolidation tomorrow. The question is when. There will be consolidation at the beginning of the day on Wednesday. The question is when. Both of them will probably end up being early, so I believe that today is tomorrow and Wednesday will probably end up being slow. Once again, type in a wire yes if that makes sense. While we do that, we're going to talk about NAS 100. Took another trade on NAS 100, same game plan, with the same thought process and mentality. We're going to go through that real quick. So what ended up happening was this morning, market ended up pushing down to the downside, and we end up looking at the market from there. Same thought process. Market ended up double tapping, but it did not break. And we didn't find a natural resistance yet. We had a resistance over here, but we didn't have a natural resistance to be able to be proven. So when the market ended up pushing up to the upside, I'm sorry, it was right here. Let me do that over again. So movement was right here. It didn't break below support. My thought process was that it was going to end up popping back up. Once it ended up popping back up and showing the actual resistance and rejecting, ended up taking a trade at 11,872. My stop loss was at 11,900. Same deal. Market ended up tapping more than 3 times when it came down to resistance. So that play was only to halfway, especially if I end up feeling like there was going to end up being any type of pressure. Market ended up hitting the VWAP. Once it ended up bouncing off the VWAP, we ended up getting this strong bullish candlestick right here. I exited off on half of that movement. So I got a portion of this movement from the top of the resistance to the bottom. Once I end up getting that, I end up placing in a order at the bottom and at the top of this movement. I did not box this one in because I think I was at work when that happened. But essentially the plan was being able to get in at late 11,875 and end up getting out at 11,990. You notice the market ended up pushing up to 11,000 or into 12,013. End up getting out at 11,990, which matched up with that vortex area in this free run space that we end up having as the market end up falling down the first time. So all we end up doing with this, taking the same trade, because history repeats itself when it comes down to movements. If there's an unfair market price, more than likely it'll be an unfair market price if it's an unfair market price to the downside, there'll more than likely be an unfair market price to the upside in the same area and the same price action, right? History basically just keeps on repeating itself. You just got to know exactly how to be able to spot them out. And being able to go from there. So end up taking that trade, end up doing okay on this one. I actually ended up getting out a little bit earlier than what I wanted to, but still caught one trade. I think one trade got out at 11,970, got another trade and hit all full take profit up to that position. So game plan would end up being on this one would be to wait. Unlike what's happening with US 30, there's really no consolidation build up and there's no block of that previous movement. Well, yeah, it is. There's a block right here. So essentially what is happening is that we probably might see this market free fall and go right back down to support and really kind of test it. And then we may end up having this full day, or may end up having a full day of Tuesday and on Wednesday, right before the FOMC meeting minutes, of another block consolidation inside of that spot. Don't know yet, but we'll get more information during the London session as the market actually goes from there. There's no position to be able to take on this take right now because the movement is already over with. The market already fell inside of that vortex area, so there's no reason to be able to trade that. If you don't know what a vortex area is, all you got to do is just look at this little open spot right here. That's called a low volume node. The low volume node It's the key to a lot of people's success in the way that we end up trading on this system. Just got to know how to be able to find them. Okay. But there we go. Let's go over DAX. So DAX ended up taking a trade on this one. Ended up taking a trade on this one earlier during the morning. Ended up getting in at 12,700. The thought process was that we wanted to be able to ride this trade out until 12,450. From there, market ended up breaking the counter trend line break and started to push back up. I'm actually glad that the market did not trigger me in at 12,596 when the market actually ended up pushing up. Remember what we ended up saying was that when the market ended up breaking down into that position, we were looking at being able to get back in or being able to add on to another position when the market actually ended up breaking the counter trend line break. Earlier this morning, it basically ended up doing something to the extent of this. When that trend line was broken, it was like, okay, well, do you want to take the trade or not? Steve, what's going on, big dog? Hope everything's going well. Market ended up pushing up from here, and it kind of stayed on that trend line. And when it stayed on that trend line, it kind of saved me from taking a trade, taking a trade from there. I had a trading day going for you. End up hitting on US 30, end up hitting on NAS, end up hitting on US 30. Took a partial win on oil today. Man, I go to that website at least once a week just to be able to take a look at it, just for shits and giggles. At some point in time, I will. But currently, right now, plan on this one. Plan on this trade assist. If you notice, when this market ended up pushing up to the upside, it broke the actual resistance, retested on this past resistance turn future support, and then after that started to push up towards this open space. Now, previously we ended up having that vortex area right there that we could have took advantage of. I did not take a trade on this one. I got so consumed on what was happening with US 30 and NAS, I did not take a trade on this one. But there's still some more running space all the way up to 12,990 that we could be able to take advantage of. The 15-minute is in the buy zone, which is also a good thing. What I would look at being able to do if I were you, and if this was a trade that you was interested in being able to get into, would be to see what's happening based off of this 15-minute, see if you end up getting a counter trend line break. If the market ends up giving a counter trend line break to the upside, that you can be able to see the market fully confirm on, then after that, I would consider being able to take a trade to the upside with your stop loss being just below the overall swing low of this movement, and being able to go from there. So I'm going to place an alert and go from there. I'm about to use the 135 spot over American Silver Eagles, and I always told him that was too high for me. Usually waiting until the super rounds melt at 50% or 50% over. Makes sense. Just like trading in general. You want to be able to get the best value that you possibly can get. Makes perfect sense. And now AFC is over 15 over a spot. Okay, so answer this question. I know you won on it, but did your buddy win on it? I know you won on it, but did your buddy win on it? Yes. Let's see. Damn. Okay. So essentially, game plan. What I'm looking for is this. I bought very few Eagles. I bought rounds. Okay. Essentially, what I would like to be able to see is this. Market is breaking to the downside. At some point in time, I would like to see the market break the counter trend line break, retest, and then after that, start to move back up. Once that happens, I'm looking at being able to complete this overall movement, what a resistance would be about up there. Obviously, we looked at this previous movement from before. I would look at being able to take it right back up to that overall upside movement to the top. Stop loss, I will end up placing either below this overall swing low at 12,796, depending on where you turn, or if it goes a little bit higher and makes a new higher low, wherever that U-turn would end up being. Okay, the safer spot would be below 12,000. Would be below this low right here. More aggressive spot will end up being below the overall fractal low, where it ends up taking to the top. Okay. I don't know where that number is yet, so there's no reason for me to be able to say what type of entry you should kind of be paying attention to. But one thing in particular, 15 minutes in the buy zone, so may end up seeing something off of that. The one thing that I do not like is the hours in the sell zone. More than likely, the hours in the sell zone, the 2 hours in the sell zone. Matter of fact, scratch that. I would not take a trade on this one yet. I'll wait for the 2 hour to be able to kind of make his movement to the downside. I'm going to take that off. I'm not going to jump in that yet. There's a better chance of the market falling and retesting first before being able to make any type of move off of that. Okay, so German 40, not going to do anything with it yet. Obviously, it's back inside of this large consolidation zone. They end up happening in early August. Okay. Let's take a look at take a look at Bitcoin, and then after that, that'll be it for today. Let's see what's happening with Bitcoin. See if there's anything that we can be able to pay attention to. Unless there's anybody else that has a trade, if there's a trade that anybody else is looking at this particular point. Once again, if there's a trade that anybody is looking at that they would like to be able to talk about before we get out of here. So last time we talked on this trade, last time we ended up making a move off of this trade was on September 5th. We ended up having a trade that we ended up planning out. I think we ended up planning that out on September 1st, where the market showed consolidation between a range of 20,400 and 18,560. We ended up placing in an order at the top side and the bottom side of it, with the expectation that it was going to end up breaking in one of those directions at some point. Market ended up breaking up to the upside, place was in the trade, got faked out, quickly took a quick loss on that movement. Then after that, market broke to the downside a few days later. And when it broke to the downside, that was the same day that Jerome Powell started talking interest rate decisions and everything else like that. That started pushing up on that one. As soon as it ended up breaking 19,560, it flushed all the way down to I take profit at 18,930. And then from there, market went into a triangle, broke out of that triangle, went into consolidation, broke right back up to the upside. Did not take that trade to the upside, unfortunately. Created the same type of rising wedge that we end up seeing with US 30, and then after that fell to the downside when Jerome Powell ended up talking about raising rates again. Go figure. So at this particular point, currently right now, market ended up going through another 5-day consolidation, broke to the downside, basically at the same position where we end up getting out at. And currently right now at this particular move is retesting this overall area. Now, from a strategy perspective, if this happens, if the market ends up breaking to the downside off of this overall position and proves this to be support, then now we have to block out this whole area again, which makes Bitcoin untradeable for a while. So if the market ends up rejecting and then holds this as natural support one more time and falls all the way down to 18,300, this makes the market untradeable to the upside. So there's only one trade that you could be able to take, and that will be to the downside if that was to happen. So currently right now, what I'm actually kind of hoping is that the market kind of falls inside of this overall downside area. Yes, it's going to allow us to be able to say that we're not going to trade for a while, but gives us a little bit of time to be able to allow Bitcoin to be able to play itself out for its overall movement. But I currently would not do anything with Bitcoin until the market either breaks below 18,470 or 18,420 or breaks above 19,800 before being able to make a movement on that. Really nothing to do at this particular point. Okay. So once again, gonna leave this up real quick. I'm gonna end up reviewing all of the game plans very fast. US 30, there's no trade. I end up taking the trade earlier to 30,000 or 31,100. End up hitting take profit. Currently, right now, the market has hit that vortex area and now starting to build out a potential consolidation. Kind of like what I ended up saying with Bitcoin. This is my fear. My fear is that it may end up building out another bigger consolidation. It may end up building out a larger consolidation portion of this overall movement, which definitely makes this area untradeable. But we'll see. We'll see how that kind of plays out. Remember, October is typically a big October push all the way into January. So I'm going to end up seeing how that kind of plays out. Same thing is happening with Nas. Nas, we end up taking this trade up to this spot right here. Currently, right now, I was seeing the market kind of reject off of that. I would not look at being able to take a trade until the market breaks above 12,160. So we got a little ways to go based off of that. I don't like trading inside of consolidation. If y'all already noticed, I say that all the time. Trading inside of consolidation only gives you a 30 to 40% chance of being able to win. Trading in the middle of consolidation, you only have a 33% chance of being able to win. So there's no reason to trade in that area. Taking a look at what's happening with DAX. DAX end up saying wait for a counter trend line break before. Well, I said wait for a counter trend line break for a potential buy, but I scratched that and said that idea is out the window because the 2 hours in the sell zone, which means that going into tomorrow, I do expect for the market to be able to fall. I would not look at being able to sell it yet. That's just me personally. I can see some people actually making a reason to be able to sell it. Obviously, VWAP is below, moving average is below, the overall trend is below. But once again, we're back inside of a previous consolidation area and would fall inside of another consolidation block. This is nothing more than a high volume node, and we don't trade inside of high volume nodes, especially not long term moves. So there's no trade off of that. XPX 500 is basically making the same movement to the upside as all of the other pairs. Really no trade off of that. Bitcoin, there's no trade off of that one as well. So if you like what I ended up doing, obviously, how long did we go today? We ended up going about 40. We ended up going about 40 minutes today. Today was a slow day overall. It was a profitable day, but it was a slow day. And more than likely tomorrow and the beginning of Wednesday will be a slow day as well. So just stay patient. Allow the market to be able to play itself out. Find yourself the overall areas where the natural support, natural resistance are, and then after that, take advantage of it and pounce on it when the market is ready to move, and go from there. This kind of helped me out. I appreciate that. I was confused on some parts. How about this? Send me a private message, and what I end up doing is I send you a link to one of the boot camps that I end up having. I send you to one of the videos that I end up having at the boot camp, just to be able to get you into a good position. Matter of fact, while you're here, hold on, let me help you out on a few things while you're doing that, Zach. It's always good talking to new traders. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I would have knew before the market actually ended up pushing up. That reminds me of a book that I wrote. I wrote a book called Success from FOREX, and that was a book that I ended up giving out to a lot of people based off of what happens with the market and the things that you need to know in the beginning. But as a token of being able to say this is your first time and being able to trade and being able to help you out, equity management is the one thing that's going to keep you in the game. All right. Free accounts cannot send private messages. Okay. Let's do this. What is another way? Because I don't want you to send I don't want you to see your email. Or I don't want you to send your email through a live chat. Not at all. Um, okay, send me a friend request. I'll figure it out. But what I want to do is after this session, I'm going to end up giving you our trade tickets. And the trade tickets, it'll allow you to be able to go through 26 different Forex pairs. And it'll allow you to be able to specify how much you have in your account. To give you an example, let's say if you have $10,000 inside of your account, with if it's real or demo money, and you want to be able to trade, let's say you want to trade the AJ, depending on uh, depending on what type of risk that you want to be able to have. I do not go over 5% risk on my accounts. Typically, my risk is typically 2 to 3%. But when I know that we're in a big vortex area, we're going big fish hunting, then I typically go 5%. Uh, but I end up going 0.50. Let's say we're going 5% off of this account. That means that every trade that we're risking at 5% will end up being $500. So whether if your total pip risk is 100 pips, 5 pips, or 3,000 pips, you're still going to only risk $500 when it comes down to that movement. That is one thing that I can be able to give to you that I wish somebody would have gave to me. A long time ago when it came down to that movement, or when it came down to being able to understand it. But risk reward factor. One thing that I always say is this: you can be able to have a 1 to 2.3 risk reward factor, then you'll keep yourself in the game a very long time. So that means that you that means that you are making more than what you're risking. You are making profit, and then after that, you're being able to have enough money to be able to pay for taxes, right? That's the reason why I say 1 to 2.3. That 0.3 of that 1 to 2 is for Uncle Sam, and being able to go from there. But you send me your email. Not now, but right after we get out of here, because I don't want it to show on the live screen. If you end up doing that, then I will send you this for free. All you have to do is click on File, click on Make a Copy, and then after that, you have a copy for yourself. So while you're going through and being able to get your trades and everything else situated, you got an equity management calculator that you can be able to use. Okay. Everyone, if you like what I end up doing, please make sure that you end up clicking on that boost button that allows everybody to be able to see it a little bit more. We're building our community. We're doing a very good job of building the community and getting a lot of people in there to be able to take a look at what we end up doing from a trading perspective. There's a lot of people that's coming in and being able to put out a lot of good information or giving a lot of great feedback when it comes down to that. I truly appreciate everyone on being able to get that done. On the road to 1,000 when it comes down to that. I will give y'all more information about the Discord and everything else like that later on this week. Everything should be pretty much done when it comes down to that. They'll allow you to be able to get some memberships and everything else like that, which we end up having a lot more stuff that will end up helping you out for us being able to trade. Like always, make sure that you end up planning your trade, and then after that, trading your plan. Everyone, I see y'all in the morning at 6:30 if you wake up that early. If not, send a message if you end up taking a look at it a little bit later on throughout the day. All right, take it easy.